You guys, it's almost here. Not the Super Bowl, the Iowa Caucuses. It has been months leading up to this moment. We've had debates and town halls, interviews and polls, all sorts of things that are happening. And on Monday, February 3rd, Iowans will head to the Iowa Caucuses, and then they will project who they want to give all of their delegates to as we head into the conventions in the summer, and we kick off the presidential primaries. I know what you're thinking. I can't believe this moment is here. Or, oh my gosh, are we still in the 2020 presidential election? So I wanted to give you a quick overview about the Iowa caucus and how it works, because it's a little bit different than the primary voting on most election days that we will see coming up throughout the rest of this year. So Iowa caucuses are vastly different, right? So normally when you go to vote in a primary, you fill out a ballot, you turn it in, you go home, and then they tally all the votes. Well, in Iowa, it's a bit different. It's actually kind of a neat process. So think Dancing with the Stars, but for politicians and voting in real life. It's basically like a game of political musical chairs. So what happens is there are over 1,600 precincts across the state of Iowa and about 90 some different precincts that are satellite precincts across the world. And actually, interestingly enough, Florida has a couple Iowa precincts. So it's kind of neat if you're in Florida. But anyways, let's talk about how this looks and what happens. So at 7 p.m. Central Time, Iowans will head to their designated precincts. So think churches, schools, gyms, libraries, and they will go into a room, and in a precinct, there could be, just a handful of people, and there could be as many as 500 people. The Democratic presidential candidates or a representative from their campaign will stand up, and they will talk about why Iowans should vote for them, and they should go stand in their designated area. And then everybody in the precinct will have 30 minutes to go and stand in their candidate that they have chosen, the designated space. So literally, people, instead of casting ballots, will go stand in a physical location where their campaign, the candidate is. And what happens after 30 minutes, then the caucus officials will go around and count the number of people standing in that area with that candidate. And the candidate must receive at least 15% of support at that precinct location to be considered what is viable. If, however, that candidate does not have 15%, let's say they're just under the threshold, or let's say they maybe are just standing by themselves, caucus goers will then have another 30 minutes, which is called realignment, where they will have to choose, if their candidate has not met the viability threshold, to go stand in another candidate's area and throw their support behind that candidate, or they will try to join forces with other candidates who might be on the cusp of the viability threshold, or they can just choose to sit out and not actually opt for any candidate. After those 30 minutes, they then go around. That is the final total. And then from there, they will go and they will figure out who is the winner in Iowa and who gets the delegates. So delegates in Iowa, they have 47 delegates that are up for grabs. And it's either winner take all, or it's going to be evenly dispersed among who are the winners. So that is an overview of the Iowa caucuses. Now let me talk about what to look for in Iowa. Recent polling shows Bernie Sanders is enjoying a sizable lead. He is 25% of likely caucus goers in Iowa, while we see that behind him is Mayor Pete Buttigieg, and then Joe Biden behind him, Elizabeth Warren holding in 4th place, and Amy Klobuchar polling at roughly 7%. Now, this is kind of unique. Bernie Sanders has enjoyed a surge in the polls recently. Now, if we look at 2016, he narrowly lost to Hillary Clinton by about 0.25% of the vote in Iowa. So really, at this point in time, it looks really good for Bernie that he could take a win home in Iowa. However, stranger things have happened. We have seen in previous elections, such as 1976, Jimmy Carter was the underdog of the ticket in the Democrat race, and he won Iowa. And again in 2008, Barack Obama was an underdog candidate, and he won Iowa as well. Now, Iowa is a really big deal because not only is it the kickoff to the presidential primary election, but it is also giving the campaigns some new fresh air and momentum into their candidacy as they head to New Hampshire. So what does this mean for Bernie Sanders and Pete Buttigieg? And can you lose Iowa and lose New Hampshire and still become president? Actually, you can, but it has only happened once in 40 years. And the candidate that lost both Iowa and New Hampshire and went on to become president was Bill Clinton. It's going to be an interesting night in the Hawkeye State. All eyes will definitely be on Iowa come Monday, February 3rd. I hope you'll come back after the caucuses and we'll do a wrap up. I'll talk a little bit about, what happened. Did Bernie Sanders win Iowa? Did Mayor Pete Buttigieg hand an upset to Bernie Sanders in Iowa? Or did Elizabeth Warren come out of nowhere and win? I hope you guys are having a fantastic week. Check back after the Iowa caucuses on Monday night. I'll see you guys then. Have a great day. Bye.